How Andrew Carnegie became the richest man in the world. Welcome to Talk Business. Today's video will explore how Scottish immigrant with just 5 years of schooling would pave the way from poverty to being the richest man in the world. Carnegie was the wealthiest American in history, even though he wasn't born in America. His story begins across the Atlantic Ocean in Dunfermline, Scotland, where he grew up in total poverty. His mother used to work around the clock sewing shoes, and his father used to make clothing materials and weaving looms. His parents struggled to find work in their new country. This left Andrew no choice but to become drop out of school and support his family. He first worked as a bobbins boy in a cotton mill at the age of 13, earning a mere $1.20. He finally got a job in his town's local telegraph office as a messenger boy. He used to deliver telegrams by bike all over Pittsburgh, and he would have to memorize the faces of those he delivered to so that he could greet them by name. This was a difficult ordeal for him, but he never stopped. Fortunately for him, he perfected his telegraph skills at 17, and he grew up increasingly skilled at hearing Morse code impressively. He was able to recite messages without writing them down, and this professionalism caught the attention of Thomas Scott, who happened to be a regional manager for the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. He then hired Andrew as his telegrapher and private secretary for $35 per month. During that period, the Pennsylvania Railroad Company was one of the world's largest corporations. It was an excellent opportunity for him. While working, Tom Scott realized Carnegie's potential and decided to mentor him like a second father. Tom advised Carnegie to invest in stocks, which provided Carnegie with his first taste of capitalism. After numerous executions and a great return on investments, Carnegie capitalized on those opportunities, which made him launch the Keystone Bridge Company, the next move that would define him as an astute entrepreneur. Keystone was not only for building bridges, it also had its very own iron mills. These mills provided the iron that was needed for constructing the bridges. This brought in a tremendous amount of capital. Getting to own the iron source alone meant that Andrew's bridge building company would not depend on extracting or mining companies for iron. Like their competitors, this gave Carnegie more control over the entire process, and it also helped improve their margins. Through his success in his bridge construction, he leveraged his connections to enter the railroad industry. Essentially, he operated a triad of 3 companies, in which each company strengthened one other. Andrew's site was erected in New York City, which is proven to be the undisputed business capital of the world. In the city, he thought he would find a hustling culture and mingle with other distinguished business people. But he was disappointed. He always described the wealthy individuals around him as scoundrels. In the 19th century, Andrew was credited with expanding the American steel industry by implementing vertical integration of steel production. He controlled the most powerful integrated iron and steel operations that was ever owned by an individual in the United States. One of his great innovations was the efficient and cheap mass production of steel. Before going further, let's talk about how much money he made in his lifetime. We know that Andrew still remains one of the richest men in history, but it didn't just start like that. Andrew Carnegie founded the Carnegie Steel Company, and this company was the most extensive integrated iron and steel operations in the whole of the United States. He later sold his steel company in 1901 for $480 million to J.P. Morgan, who then merged his company with U.S. Steel. In those periods, U.S. Steel was the first billion-dollar company in the world. Going further in his final years, Carnegie's net worth was $475 million US. However, at the time of his death, he donated most of his wealth to philanthropic endeavors and charities. He had only $30 million left to his personal fortune. Carnegie was so rich that his hundreds of millions accounted for about 0.60% of the US annual GDP. He also had a real value estimated at about $75 billion adjusted for the late 2000s. When Andrew died, his last $30 million was also given away to different charity foundations and to pensioners. How about we check Andrew's interests and the organization he owned? At the early periods of 1870, here were Andrew's major interests: 20% of Keystone Bridge Company, 40% of Union Iron Mills, which can also be referred to as Carnegie, Cloman & Company, 40% of the furnace company called Lucy, large holdings of several publicly traded railroad companies, most notably the Pennsylvania Railroad. Andrew spent his significant time traveling in Europe selling bonds, and this was to raise money for his ventures. He would also deal with iron and steel supply shortages if he didn't sell bonds. These executions made building bridges and railroads extremely stressful yet rewarding for him. Andrew Carnegie founded numerous organizations, and that made him who he was at his peak. These organizations include Carnegie Mellon University, Carnegie Dunfermline Trust, Carnegie Institute of Science, Carnegie UK Trust, Carnegie Corporation of New York, Carnegie Council for Ethics and International Affairs, Carnegie Foundation Peace Palace, the Carnegie Hero Trust Fund, and much more. Carnegie invested millions of dollars optimizing the efficiency of Homestead, one of his factories, enabling it to make more steel than other mills comparable to its size. Still, another part of the profit machine was yet to be optimized. This posed a problem for Carnegie, who worked on rebranding his image from an oppressive steel factory billionaire to a champion of the workers' rights. So instead of risking or perhaps damaging his reputation, he would have his right-hand lieutenant. After the wealth gap continued to grow, the wealthiest people in America were accumulating fortunes faster than in American history. Meanwhile, workers felt that they were property of the rich and that their shrinking voice could only be heard through a union. This being the single most prosperous man in the world at that time, Carnegie would completely cut ties with his business life and dedicated 100% of himself to serving the world through philanthropy. He had a soft spot for libraries, which he credits for helping him achieve the financial success he acquired. He would donate over 2,500 libraries in the cities and worldwide throughout his life. It wasn't all self-promotion, and he was generous for generosity's sake. His name was only displayed in less than 500 of those libraries. One example of his generosity is Carnegie Hall, one of New York's most recognizable landmarks, which was built in 1891. Carnegie built and donated the building as the Music Hall, but its original name, the Music Hall, was only changed to the current version after his death, and not through his request, but through the Music Hall's board members. Truly, Carnegie's philanthropic impact on the world is also equally significant. Understandably, he practiced harsh business tactics, but it was assumed that donating his money could be the medium of atoning for his business cruelty. There's a great feeling of being the wealthiest man of your time, but it's also more incredibly feeling to use that wealth to help people. That's the perfect definition of Andrew Carnegie. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Do well to click the bell icon, as it will notify you each time we upload new videos. You can also check through our channel for other exciting videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.